Hello everyone, this is Juan from Gala in Japan. In today's video we are going to talk about carving. So we're going to talk about the main difference between regular parallel turns and carving turns. Which one is better, parallel turns or carving turns? Well, carving turns are supposed to be a little more advanced technique. However, you don't do carving all the time. You do carving only in well-groomed, hard-packed snow. So depending on the terrain and the conditions, you will be doing carving turns or parallel turns. In a normal regular turn, what you want to do normally is control your speed, can reduce your speed. So how normally people do that is when you are turning, you put more pressure on the exterior ski, and then you kind of like let your ski tails drift a little bit. That's gonna slow you down, and that's one of the main purpose of a parallel turn. However, on a carving turn, you're not going to do that. The most important thing is that you glide your skis through the snow. So how do you execute a carving turn? Well, the first thing you do, you put your skis on an angle and you put more pressure on the exterior ski, kind of trying to drive the turn. The most important thing is that your weight is well balanced and you kind of like let the skis glide, making sure your tails do not drift. So how do you do that? Well, one of the things you do when you do a parallel turn, you go a little bit up and down. So in a carving turn, you don't do that. In a carving turn, you just take your skis and kind of like putting more pressure on the exterior ski, kind of like put them gradually in an angle, and in the middle of the turn, you get the highest ski edge angle, and that allowed you to stay in place without drifting. The higher edge angle is going to avoid the drifting or the skidding of the tails. Carving turn, your body is going to stay always in a kind of low position, and it's going to be more your knees and your feet are going to kind of like start edging, and the edge is going to make you turn. Putting the skis on an edge with a carving turn is what's going to make you turn. So another important thing to take into account when doing carving is using carving skis. Do not use all mountain skis or powder skis or something too wide. Under your feet, skis ideally should be no more than 70 millimeter. Another difference between parallel skiing and carving skiing is the counter rotation of the upper body. So what happens when you're doing a parallel turn, your skis go one way, kind of your upper body from the waist up kind of goes the other way. That's gonna kind of make your tails skid more and kind of reduce more the speed. So in order to do carving, the first thing you have to do is be always on a low body position. Don't go up and down, and don't do counter rotation. So what are the steps you need to do in order to do carving? First, early edge engagement. So from the very beginning of the turn, instead of doing an extension, like in a parallel turn, in a carving turn, you just start putting your edges, or your skis on an edge. Once you put your skis on an edge, if you're using carving skis, you're going to start turning automatically. Second point, high edge angle. When you're doing a good carving turn, your ski edge angle with the snow should be more than 50 degrees, ideally 60, 70, or even up to 80. So number 3 is a toppling. So once you start putting the skis on an edge, by kind of like putting your knees to the side, you have to kind of let your body kind of fall to the interior of the turn, especially your hip. Your hip is going to start going down with your knees until it gets very low. That position is very unstable, and then most people are scared of doing that. So what you have to do is kind of just thinking, I'm gonna let myself fall down, toppling to the interior of the turn, and the more I fall down, the more pressure I put on the exterior ski. The fact that you are kind of falling down to one side is gonna put more pressure on the exterior ski of the turn. The number fourth point is most of the pressure at the beginning of the turn and all the way to the middle of the turn should be on your exterior ski. That brings me to the next point, number 5, similar edge angle, edge similarity. Why is that? Well, it's a tendency that many people will put a lot of pressure on the exterior ski and then kind of leave the interior ski kind of just like kind of flat or less angle. So you have to make sure you put your knee down and both the skis have the same angle through the turns. That's very important. Why that's very important? That brings me to the next point, number 6, the transition to the next turn. So to me personally, the most scary part of like high edge angle is that as you're toppling inside of the turn, you kind of feel like you're gonna fall down and you're not gonna be able to stand up, no? Get back vertical, no? You feel like if I keep on angling down, I'm gonna eventually just fall down to the snow. So most videos out there don't really talk about that. I don't know why. So how do you do that? There's 2 things you have to do. You put your weight a little bit, just a little bit slightly backwards, and suddenly you engage a little bit your tails. Carving turn, you engage your tails a little bit at the end. And then you kind of like start moving your body up, back up to the vertical position. And at that point, you start engaging the interior leg. So from the beginning of the turn to the middle of the turn, 80% of your pressure is on your outside leg. But gradually from the middle of the turn to the end of the turn, you're transferring more pressure little by little to the interior leg. And the moment you kind of like finally kind of like get back on your body in a vertical position, you already have most of your weight on what used to be your interior leg. So that's the last point, which is the transition from turn to turn. In a parallel turn, you kind of like do one turn and then kind of go a little bit straight and then you do another turn. In a carving turn, basically you do one turn and then this transfer of weight we just talked about, suddenly you kind of like get your skis like flat, just like almost nothing, just kind of like just go from one edge to the next edge really quick. So this is why you have to kind of like start transferring the weight from the middle of the turn. So you initiate the next turn already with the weight on the exterior leg.